Campfire Story.
I was 6 years old when I first laid my eyes on him. It was Halloween night, 1974. I was out trick-or-treating with my big brother and his friends. One of my two friends at the time had either gotten sick from eating all the trick-or-treater candy early. The other was dragged off to a dumb Halloween party with their parents. But my brother's friends were nice though. They weren't the kind to leave a child unattended in the middle of a rural neighborhood. As we were finishing up our final few houses, I noticed something out of the corner of my eye. I turned and saw him, or whatever it was. He was standing down the street, about a half football field's length away. His skin was as white as the moon, and his suit was as black as the center of an eclipse. And there was a dark red light that was seemingly orbiting the figure. But the one thing that stood out to me was his height. He easily towered over most men and could effortlessly peer into a second-story windows. Something about his presence seemed unnatural. I could tell he was looking at me out of everyone in our group. Unmoving in his attempt, I turned to my brother to make sure that he saw it too. But when I turned back to show him, it was gone, as if it were never there. My brother assured me that it was most likely someone having their own weird Halloween fun. As I was following them back home, the street lamp above us blew out, causing the glass to shatter. A small shard lodged itself deep into my brother's left arm, blood pouring from the wound. Our neighbor had heard the light blow and came out to see what happened and was able to call our parents and the hospital. Once we got there, the doctor told us that the shard was too deep for him to remove and that my brother required surgery. My parents and I waited for what seemed like hours. The surgeon then came out and spoke to my parents. He said that my brother was incredibly lucky. If the shard had lodged itself just a centimeter away, it would have severed a nerve and my brother would have lost all control of his left hand. My brother didn't seem too upset about it. He said he'd get a cool scar after the stitches get removed. So I didn't really have a choice but to be as optimistic as he was. However, something just kept nagging me about that thing I saw, as if my instincts were trying to warn me. I told my dad about what I had seen a few days later, but he just told me the same thing my brother did. I couldn't press him for answers or anything. It's not like he knew any more than I did. I decided to just let it go and never think about it again. That is until 2 years later, on Halloween night of 1976. I was once again with my brother, but instead of trick-or-treating, we went to a campfire at our church. We lived in Kentucky, the very top of the Bible Belt. Church activities like this were practically mandatory. My brother was recounting the tale of when he heroically saved me from a falling glass shard, with a scar to prove it. And as I looked beyond the fire, my heart sank to my feet, and a familiar unnatural feeling of dread overcame me. It was there again, same white skin, same black outfit, same red orbiting light. But this time, he was closer, much closer. I then began to realize a few things that I didn't before. His skin wasn't white at all. He didn't have any. It was bone. I was staring at a skeleton. The knots of his eyes were as dark as his suit, and it looked like he was wearing a tuxedo with vertical white stripes. But what got to me most was the smile. It was somehow smiling at me, its jaw contorting into a disgusting grin, and its teeth morphing into sharp fangs. The world around me faded away, and I was left with this monstrosity. He did nothing and said nothing. After 15 horrible minutes, his head tilted down, his lack of eyes gazing at the fire. I slowly and nervously lowered mine in response, only to find that the fire had started to spread to the grass around us. I jerked my head back up, but he was gone just like the first time. But by some divine intervention, a fire truck was patrolling the streets and noticed the out-of-control fire and swiftly extinguished the blaze. Once all the flames had been put out, I noticed that there was a section of the grass that was practically untouched by the fire. As I made my way around, I saw that it made the shape of the letter J. The firefighters were baffled as to how the fire even got out of hand in the first place. There was nothing that should have caught fire. According to them, it's why we were even allowed to do this. After that night, I knew beyond the shadow of a doubt that thing I saw was responsible for those accidents. So I dubbed him Mr. Unlucky. As the years went by, Mr. Unlucky kept showing up. But a few things were consistent with him. 1, he never showed up 2 years in a row. He always skipped at least 1 year. 2, the closer he was to me, The worse the accident was and the rarer it was for something to come along and save me. The opposite situation is also true. 3. He only showed up on Halloween. 4. He never spoke a single word. Over the years, I landed myself at the hospital many times because of Mr. Unlucky. I've been electrocuted, hit by a car, stabbed in the leg, etc. During my trips, I met a sweet, beautiful, funny, and charming nurse. We eventually started dating, and one day we got married. And after we got married, Mr. Unlucky never got any closer to me for some reason. In fact, every year after that, he just kept getting farther away. It was weird not seeing him as much after that, but I was finally at peace for once in my life. A few years pass. It's Christmas Eve 1993. I hear a loud noise downstairs in the middle of the night, and my wife is terrified. I get out of bed, grab the gun from the bedside table, and head downstairs. Mostly too. I'm thinking an ornament maybe fell off the tree or something. But I want my wife to feel like I'm safe. What I'm met with, however, filled me with a long overdue dread. Standing right in front of me is a tall, slender man with a crimson suit and matching Santa hat, a large bag, and an orbiting red light. Now with antlers, the figure turns to greet me as if he was expecting me. And it's none other than Mr. Unlucky himself. I drop the gun and fall to the floor in terror. Mr. Unlucky reaches his long bony arms into his sack and pulls out a small present, one with black and orange wrapping. He places the gift in front of me and says in a soothing yet horrifying voice, "Merry Christmas." Subscribe or I will haunt your house. If you like this video, please do comment, like, and subscribe for more. Thanks for hearing. See you in the next one.